All right, guys. Thank you for joining me here. My name's Zach. This is the Catalyst Collective. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll get rolling.
Hello.
Great introduction.
Great introduction.
Tyler, moving on.
Did you say moving on? Okay,
Yeah.
My name is Spencer King.
Well, hey, Spencer King.
Hello, my name is Chris.
This is ASMR. All right, sweet. Hey, so what we're doing tonight, we're just going to have a little conversation. Hopefully it'll be a short conversation that gets you wrestling with a couple of ideas.
Oh, it won't be short.
I've been wrestling with it. Better be short. We're just cutting it off.
No one wants to hear this for that long.
Here's
Okay,
where
go
it
ahead.
all started. For me, we're here in Austin, Texas, and we're sitting right in the middle of one of the largest festivals in the world, South by Southwest. And I love going down there because I love music and film and all the free food and the pancakes, and I walk a whole lot, and it's great. But I love being in the middle of a festival that's all about innovation. It's crazy. Like, you'll see drones rolling the street. They paid homeless people to be Wi-Fi beacons. They launched Twitter and Foursquare. And
That explains why I'm getting such good connection down there.
right?
On every street
Because
corner.
that homeless guy is following you.
Oh, man.
But it's all forward thinking. And so for me, on Wednesday, it was kind of weird where I went from downtown in the middle of the future, essentially, to go back to like an old historical church with like the old rugged cross and the stone and the stained glass and everything else. And so what I want to talk about just a little bit tonight is innovation in the church. And get you guys' thoughts, experiences. You guys...
Those two words don't go together.
And I think that's the typical thought. You guys have all been in the church world long enough to have some sort of idea or opinion on this. So let's just start real quick. On a scale like 1 to 10, like 1 being old school, 10 being super innovative, pushing everything forward, where does the church fall?
Wait, now or like the second century?
There's your answer.
We're still doing
Oh.
the second century.
Oh,
Right now.
okay. Oh, God, that's... We kind of got better with our music side, so I'm going to take it from a 3 to a 4.
Okay. Fair. Yeah.
I mean, not Christian radio. That's... We're 10 years out.
I think in ways the church is pretty progressive.
Yeah.
As far as everything they've got their hand in are all futuristic, we'll say, technology. For instance, a lot of churches have their hand in video to a degree. They're live streaming.
Yeah.
Doing things like that, which you would say is pretty progressive. Their music, is getting better. It's still a little bit behind, but there's definitely a few standout artists that are definitely moving things forward.
Chris Tomlin, Michael W. Smith.
All those guys, I was trying to think. Stephen Curtis Chapman. So yeah, all those guys are they're just moving
Take me back.
it up.
Thinking about video real quick.
Yeah.
Mosaic Church a couple years back shot that Super Bowl commercial, and it actually aired during the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
They won that contest.
Was it a national or was it just
Arenas.
local?
Yeah, it was nationally.
Wow. Okay.
And so there's some churches doing some really cool things.
And
for
spending
sure.
a lot of money.
There are others that are still running power.
Sorry,
point.
you're talking about Mosaic down in California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, not the local one.
There is a
Because
Mosaic
We have a
church
Mosaic in
in-
Austin.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
we're
was like,
excited. You're talking about the leading one in America, not
Yeah.
just the local average church. Gotcha.
Yeah, I got thrown off there.
I'll say we're a solid 5 right now.
Okay. Five
Five.
out of 10.
I would actually have to stick with that too. 5. I'd say, to the point, there is a lot of stuff that is being progressed, but there's still some stuff that they're not quite catching up on the trends on.
Well, that was the question, though, is are we leading the pack? Are we innovating? Or are we just the late bloomers who are finally catching up? And I feel like we are the late bloomers that are finally catching
Yes.
up. That does not mean we are in the Stone Ages. We're not just the Puritans here, but we're also...
Well, let's
how many
talk-
things do we put out there that other people follow?
Changing the world.
Well, let's talk about leading the way. Does leading the way mean main innovator, or does that mean just someone who's getting in early? Because if we're talking about somebody who's getting in early and perfecting, I'd say the church has done some things pretty well.
Yeah.
For instance, live streaming, right?
Sure.
How many churches are live streaming now? You don't see the businesses live streaming or whatever. There's a lot of things that aren't utilizing
They're
social
from
media.
a cell phone and a tripod, but we're getting there. Like, we're taking
some of them.
steps.
There's also a lot of some that are doing it TV quality.
Yeah.
So,
No, for sure.
yeah.
I saw this one church that was doing an At the Movies series, and they had inflatable dinosaurs come out and Jeeps roll, like pyrotechnics.
Love
It's
it.
insane.
So much money. It's great.
Insane.
Wow.
So some churches are blowing
wake
it
me up
out
on a Sunday morning?
and others are
Come
just
on.
getting by. I mean, you're this is your wheelhouse. Like, you work
Yeah.
at Tesla, so you see innovation all the time. Is the church... where do you
Model
see the
Y,
church-
baby, today. Sorry.
I
go ahead.
know. And so I mean, I'm even reading a book on Elon Musk right now just because I want to learn a little more about our culture and where we come from and all that stuff.
And
like
your
our
cult leader.
CEO is, like certifiably
Culture.
mad scientist leading the way. You know, what do we do next for space industry? Well, we land rockets. What do we do for cars? You know, let's change the industry.
Yeah.
Solar panels, all of this stuff. And I was thinking about earlier, what would that be for the church? What would be like the game-changing thing that we would even make out there as the church that would change and not just tweak something, but like revolutionize?
Yeah. And I don't see us doing that a whole lot. I mean, you listen to Elon Musk on Joe Rogan, and he's talking about electric planes and all the things that are possible. And if God gives us dreams, like we should be leading the charge with helping the world dream to, you know, make it a better place. But I see us just trying to catch up with conversations. It feels like we're always chasing culture. It feels like we're letting culture lead the way, and then we're figuring out how we respond. I think there's some like youth pastors out there who are doing a killer job with tech and like plugging into culture and speaking the language. I think sometimes maybe the problem is they don't really have a voice in the church. And so if you can figure out how like the exec pastor and the other leadership team work with the youth pastor, somebody young and in touch, you know, the church would really, really kill it. Well,
That's the thing too, because like I know we've discussed this before, but I've seen a lot of movements, a lot of progressive movements of sorts in society, in culture happen, where we've talked about why wasn't the church the one to start that movement, and I think a lot of that is the church is sitting back waiting for something else to move, something else to shake and happen, and then how should we respond to that rather than being the ones to have the world say, how should we respond to the movement, the things that they're doing, the progress that they're making for all of us.
Totally. And you're a YouTuber, so you're all about capturing stories and sharing stories.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about that with the Gillette ad. There was a Gillette ad on toxic masculinity, and it just blew up. And everybody's like, I don't want Gillette teaching me, ethics or morals or whatever. The church should have been the one that made that and is pushing that message forward. Like, what does it mean to be a man? But we don't even play in that ballpark.
So do you think part of the problem is that part of church culture is holding on to the past? I mean, part of church culture is holding on to traditionalism.
Yeah, let's do that. So what do you think some of the barriers are that keep the church from innovating, pushing forward? And I think that's probably the biggest one.
I think so.
Like we're creatures of comfort.
Just wait till the boomer generation passes.
Jeez.
Sorry, girl.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, but like we're creatures of habit, right? Like we seek comfortability. There's something in our human nature that wants to feel safe. And if I know how everything works and plays and I don't have to change, I feel safe. And I like that.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, we know what's comfortable. We grew up in it, and so you start associating the good things with just the things. And that some of those things are the pulpit up at the front, the song, hymnals, it as well, and they're all good stuff, but they are just elements of the culture at the time that we then associate. This is what faith looks like, or Jesus, or purity, or a lot of these things that they aren't. That was the expression of the time, but we want to keep these today because we think we're deviants if we get away from that in any way, shape, or form.
See, I don't even think it's about being a deviant if they break away from traditionalism. I think it's that they're using the business plan that's always worked, right? I mean, we have a structure that's been set.
Whoa, you can't call church a business plan.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
that is-
I'm
successful
entrepreneurially
business plan.
minded, so and that leads to my next point is I think we're using a business plan that has worked. We have a format that's worked, and that's why when we watch Bethel and we watch Hillsong, they don't look very different to me. And
That's
they're
the internet to the paper industry, friend.
That's right. Well, they're booming. So my thing, I think, is another huge part of this is we lack visionaries in the church, we lack entrepreneurs, and we lack application. And I don't think that we have good project managers. Speaking in the industry I come from,
the project manager working in the tech field.
I don't think we have project managers who are good enough to execute, and I don't think we look at church in a sense of business as we should either.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that we can learn from the corporate world, the Elon Musks in the world, that are doing great things and they're visionaries in their own right.
That's basically saying that right now the church is in a position of Blockbuster and a Netflix and Redbox world, where things are happening, but the church
What is
is
Blockbuster?
It's the thing that happened in the 90s and in the Captain Marvel movie.
He was going to bring up Captain Marvel somehow.
Uh-huh.
I mean, movie guys got to bring it up, but Yeah, you see the way Blockbuster went. They weren't able to catch up. They could have easily been the innovators in the industry. They could have done what Netflix and Redbox are doing in terms of getting movies quick and easy into people's homes. They caught on that way too late, and you saw the way they went. So what is the church doing to kind of stay above that line and not fall behind like Blockbuster did?
Yeah. Yeah, when Blockbuster had streaming services, they had the digital and the mail and the like brick and mortar stores. It was the leadership that said, "Hey, we're cutting all of that," and pulled back and caused them to tank. Yep. So maybe there's some leadership stuff going on. But I like these barriers, right? Like tradition and creatures of comfort. We start to get super comfortable with the tradition and just ride it out. And almost, I dare we say, like maybe you start to worship the tradition even more than what the tradition represents, or the idea that sometimes church culture can like exclude business mindsets because it doesn't look as spiritual. But what if you had like spirit-led strategic planning? What if you honored those people in your congregation? I think they would experience God more, and your church would thrive.
Right.
Maybe here's the deal: they're probably not going to be the guys crying in the front row during worship or running aisles or anything like that. You're going to have to like seek these guys out and find a way to make it happen.
For sure.
Any other barriers?
No, I mean, I think that really starts on just another one that, I mean, because we don't see everything as spiritual often, and only a certain set things, and of course the more explicit things that Jesus says, which of course are, but it's a very limited view. The church is always trying to go in just one single direction, pushing in just one way, while the rest of the world is, I mean, they can kind of really make it up as they go. Elon wants to save the world. Well, what's our savior? Let's take you to Mars, friend. Of course the church isn't leading us to Mars, but because they're not tapping into the Elons, like you're saying, they're not tapping into these other fields, these other areas, because it seems less spiritual. There's a whole lot they're missing that could be implemented in the church, and kind of carried out from there.
Yeah, totally. And what a cool way to like tap into culture and speak to a generation that's thinking about and wrestling with all these things. Like, let's talk about like what role does God have in bioethics, or us going to Mars, or even a crazy little conversation about like God and extraterrestrial life. Did Jesus die for aliens? Could jumpstart a conversation with this next generation.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, even like some of the things that are just big topics right now. What was it Mark Driscoll said? Oh, recycling. I know the guy who made the earth, and I know the guy who's going to burn it up.
Yeah, he's going to get rid of this one anyways.
Yeah, well, what if we engage culture a little more on where they're at on these...
sad hippie heart.
So, I mean...
And now the push is stewardship, and it's led by the world.
Even to that point, like, you look at... You bring up, did Jesus die for aliens? Well, look at Jesus back in the day and how the Pharisees acted and what they were stuck in their traditional ways. And Jesus came and shook things up and said, hey, you know what? We're bringing the Gentiles in also. And so, I mean...
Hold up.
Yeah, and the Pharisees are like, wait, hold on. And just the way he shook up culture then and progressing, Jesus was progressive for the faith back in those days.
Yeah, totally. Crazy. I heard this like Brueggemann quote this week, but it was like when Israel was in Egypt, they were slaves to Egyptians, like a very, very literal slavery. And then when Jesus rolls on the scene.
Celine?
Yeah,
Selena.
When Jesus rolls on the scene and he finds Israel in Jerusalem, he finds the Pharisees, they're a slave to religion. Like when they were closest was in the middle ground, when they were wandering and relying on God for every next step. What a cool place to be. Okay, do you guys have any ideas as far as churches or people leading the way and innovating, or any ideas that the church can implement like right now? I think of Scott the Painter. Like, if you don't know this guy, check him out. Super cool, but like performance art, speaking to the heart of a broken generation. I think of Mosaic Church in LA. And then I think of all the humble churches that are just trying to that's not FaceTime. FaceTime.
No, for sure.
What is it? Live stream. Just trying to live stream
Zach's
from their
old.
cell
He's in his
phones.
30s now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Teach me to Facebook. You guys have any other examples of cool
no,
stuff?
I think a lot of them, like you said, like a Scott the Painter, it's the outliers. It's the ones that wouldn't be normally the poster child at a church of, what are we about, who represents us, but they are out there. Same with the music scene. Same with, I think, even film now. the stuff is out there. It's eventually going to manifest into a lot more. We're going to see more of that stuff coming. But I think there's already a few heavy hitters that, whether fully agree with them or not, I mean, you see like the Dave Ramseys who are like lean at financial area, and he's respected whether you're Christian or not. You see the John Maxwell's who are like, he's a leadership name, whether you believe Jesus or not. And a few of those that like they are changing the game with their faith, in these other areas, these other cultures and tiers of like society.
Totally.
I think the big thing is that everybody's got to start looking inside. What are the gifts? What are the strengths that God has placed within them that they can tap into and kind of use in their fields? Like, for so long, the way I've heard it in church is that, oh, your office space where you go to work is your mission field. And I think there's a lot to that can actually be turned around and applied to, okay, but maybe it's not just the office I'm supposed to be at. Maybe God placed a dream within my head to expand and go somewhere else. For instance, me doing stuff on YouTube, what direction can I go in eventually someday in my big dream with what I want to do there that can turn and point people back to the story that God is trying to write in their lives.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that's a big one. Tap into your gifts. Tap into the things that God wanted you to do, and you'll start innovating. You'll start progressing things forward.
Yeah, you're cultivating
in.
culture. Like, that's what it's all about. Spence?
I think it starts with being analytical. I think all inventors and innovators usually start with, okay, what's broken or what can be improved upon. And I think that should be used just for the church as well.
Yeah.
What is broken? What is working? Why did it become successful? Looking at the business plan, doing some gap analysis, seeing what's missing, and seeing how we can use people and their gifts and their talents and utilize them to come up with new and exciting solutions. And then I think the other part about this is finding people who can apply it well. So and using social media, I'm gonna butcher his name, but like Gary Vaynerchuk, is that his name?
Vaynerchuk.
You know
Vaynerchuk. Okay,
Gary V.
beautiful.
Yeah, there it is.
He's a very interesting guy. I love hearing him, but
Yeah.
we live in a world of social media, using a way to actually apply new ideas and using that platform to actually apply into local communities well.
Yeah.
I foresee that innovation, our hardest roadblock is going to be to overcome and start something new when it feels so foreign.
Yeah, totally.
I think definitely a big piece of it is just trying to block out fear. There's a fear of exploring how did God actually make me and what did he actually make me to do. And there's a fear that if it doesn't fit into what the church I attend, the church body that I attend, if it doesn't fit into their plan, maybe that's not necessarily what God has for me. When in reality, God says, no, I'm here to have a personal relationship with you and to guide you to something specific that I'm trying to lead you to. And we're too afraid to necessarily dive into that and find out what that actually is.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's like a common thread throughout all innovators, though, is that you're willing to break away from the
Step
pack.
out and lead.
Yeah, there's that time of separation, almost even an outcast, until the rest of the world starts to follow you and realize, oh, we'll look at this person in the end as the one who led and the innovator. But really, they were the loser in the beginning because they weren't doing things right. They weren't doing what was value-based at their community, their friends, whatever that looked like. But they saw a vision that was a little bit further, a little bit bigger, and kept going. So it's going to take some people that are just, honestly, just brave to step out and probably be called some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah, that's big. I think too often in the church we look to one another and I'm like, man, what is he doing? I'm going to do that and just maybe do a little bit better. But like, measure yourself on what God has for you, and nobody else, like, there's nobody better to guide you in the stepping out than God himself. And so it takes great humility to say, God, what's broken, and invite God into the fixing. But the church has to do that. And then I would say the last thing, we're not saying change the message. We're not saying we're innovating the message. We're just changing the method. And so we invite you guys into this process. We hope that you'll share your best ideas below. And let's continue this conversation. Love you guys. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we should have live streamed this.
Yep.
All right. Till next time.